Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the channel. This is the Bryant Report, and I am your host, Mike Bryant. And today's episode, I figured I would take some time and address some comments in the comments section from my videos. And admittedly, I've gotten behind on some responding to some of the comments. I guess I just didn't think that many people would be watching my videos, but I do read the comments. I try to respond to as many as I can, but of course, I've got other things going on in my life. So just know that if you make a comment and I don't respond right away, or maybe I don't respond at all, just know that I do read the comments. But like I stated in one of my other videos, is I've got other things. I do have work commitments. I do work from my home, and so I have to uh, attend training from time to time, usually annual training. And it just since this is January, there's a whole bunch of new stuff coming out, and so I got to get caught up to speed on it. But uh, I have gotten, admittedly, I have also gotten behind on putting out more TBI recordings from the report, and I do apologize for that. I did say that I would get some more of those out, and it they are they are kind of time consuming to do it to put them out in the fashion that I put them out. Because I want to make sure that the I can't really, I don't have the skills to like do any kind of enhancements to the recordings, because a lot of them admittedly they weren't recorded very well. The equipment that they used, either they didn't know how to use it properly, or since it seems like pretty much all these recordings were done in secret. They had the recorder hidden somewhere, so a lot of them you'll hear the fabric rubbing up against the microphone, or maybe the person speaking is too far away from the microphone, so it's you really have to like turn the volume up. And so all I can really do on my end is try to boost the volume of the audio a little bit. But I'm not technologically savvy enough to make any kind of enhancements or get some of the static out or anything like that. But hopefully if I put them out there, somebody else with those skills can take what I put out and remix it and come out something better. But for now, that's I have to work with what I got. But back to the comments, and overwhelmingly, most of the comments are pretty positive. People point out, a lot of people are interested. They're talking about it. They're bringing up good questions. But like I said before, there's detractors. There's people that don't even think I should be talking about it. And so one of the things that got brought up, or one of the comments that got brought up was, uh, you know, why did I start my channel? Am I trying to jump on the Buford Pusser bandwagon? Well, it's a very simple explanation. First of all, I have had an interest in having a starting a true crime channel for a long time. It's just I never got around to it. I was just kind of waiting for the right time to do it. Um, and I sometimes I'll procrastinate. I'm a bad procrastinator sometimes with certain things, and so I just never got around to it. And but I was kind of waiting for the right time, trying to get some ideas together. Because my whole thing was I wanted to look at some older crimes, some historical type crimes, maybe. Look into some of the FBI files and things like that. Because I like to look at the evidence. I like to look at the documents. I like to see the process that the investigators used to get to solving the crime. That's always interested me, and so that's kind of what I was waiting on. And then I was doing some traveling over this past summer, And when I got back from one of my trips, uh, I just happened to see, I got just like everybody else, that press conference came out in August of last year, and it took me by surprise, and it was interesting to me. It was interesting to see how this all went down. So that's why I started the channel, is just the interest. I'm not a I never was like a big Buford Pusser fan. Just like a lot of people, of course, I saw the movie Walking Tall, and my parents, they weren't from Tennessee, but they were from Kentucky, so pretty close by. And by the time I saw the movie, was probably sometime in the early '80s. I used to, when I was a kid, me and my dad would sit down and watch movies on the weekends, and that was just one of the movies we saw. But as far as like after that, of course, my dad kind of gave me a little bit of the history. I mean, he wasn't by any stretch like a Buford Pusser expert, but I mean, he was alive. Him and my mom were both alive, young adults during that time period, and they saw the news and they heard the stories, and so that's what they shared with me. And I thought it was a good story, uh, but I wasn't like a Buford Pusser fanatic or anything like that. But this case interested me because it was just, I knew the story of the ambush and all of that, but it was just interesting that so many years later that this case got reopened, and this is what the conclusion was. And I was anxious to see the TBI report. And I know that's kind of a long-winded answer, but that's the answer. There's no ulterior motive or anything like that. And this isn't this my channel's not going to be a dedicated Buford Pusser channel. At some point, I am going to move off of it, and I'm going to cover other cases. Maybe from time to time, I might come back and touch up on it if something else happens. But right now, this TBI report, it's a big report. There's a lot in it, a lot to look at, and that's what's interesting to me for right now. Will it be 6 months from now? Maybe not. Uh, but that's the answer. There's nothing, no motive for me. Um, and then somebody else had suggested that maybe I'm doing it to make money off of it or something like that, to cash in on it or something. Well, I can assure you, and I don't know how, some of you might not know how YouTube works or anything like that, but you got to have a certain amount of subscribers, you got to have a certain number of watch hours and things like that, if it to even make any kind of money. And so my channel, I've got roughly right around 260 subscribers. So I'm very far from being able to make any kind of money off of this. And I don't have a book out. I'm not selling books. I don't have any plans to write a book. I just, that's not of interest to me. So no, I'm not. I'm certainly not making any money off of this. So there's, hopefully that'll answer those two questions. Uh, but some other interesting comments got brought up, and one of which was from Dennis Hathcock. Now, I had put out one of the Henderson recordings, with basically the one where it was a covert recording from Dennis Hathcock of Ann Henderson. And so basically, the way that all went down is, for whatever reason, they weren't getting the information out of her that they wanted, and so the idea was, hey, let's wire up Dennis and send him in there since he's good friends with her, and he'll strike up a conversation, and maybe they can get some of that stuff out of her. Now, I'll bring up the comment. Let's see here. Bring it up on the screen. And here we go. Let me zoom that in for you. And let me take myself off the screen here for a minute and zoom it in a little bit more. Now that, as you can see, is a comment from Dennis Hathcock, and that he was just, this was on, like I said, this was on one of those recordings, and so he says, "What's funny to me is the fact that she confirmed 90% of everything I have said. What you know-it-alls don't realize is that she was informed that she was being recorded. Also, she had lied about some things that the TBI knew about in a previous interview." Well, that's interesting, and that's funny. And I responded to that. I just asked him, "Hey, why is it that the TBI report or the TBI says that she was secretly recorded? So are they lying?" And then I also asked him to clarify what exactly she lied about. He hasn't got back to me, and if he does, I'll certainly bring it to you. But he says that she was not in, or she knew that she was being recorded. Well, this is in the TBI report. This is IR 105, written by Michael Parson. In the description, it says investigative activity. Meeting with Dennis Hathcock to conduct control recording with Ann Henderson, November 15th, 2023. On Wednesday, November 15th, 2023, at approximately 10 a.m. Michael Parson, Brent Booth, Derek Miller, and FBI TFO Rodney Weaver met with Dennis Hathcock at the Arby's location at 634 Mulberry Avenue in Selmer, Tennessee, for the purposes of Dennis Hathcock voluntarily conducting a controlled recording with Ann Henderson. Through the course of the investigation, it has been determined that Ann Henderson was a girlfriend of Buford Pusser. TBI agents have previously attempted to interview Ann Henderson, and she appeared to be evasive and not wanting to discuss the topic of Ann Henderson. And it is TBI agents' belief that if Henderson discloses any information to anyone, it will be to Hathcock. Conducting this controlled recording between Dennis and Ann, TBI agents hope to obtain details from Ann that she's never publicly stated concerning this matter. Number one, Ann Henderson's confirmation of her relationship with Pusser, Ann Henderson's confirmation to her meeting with Pusser in Eastview, Ann Henderson's confirmation of Pusser asking her to marry him, Ann Henderson's confirmation that she picked up Pusser from Baptist Hospital, and so that's what they were trying to get out of her. Now, how they would have known these things, I'm guessing that's probably what Dennis Hathcock had told them that she had told him. Of course, they couldn't get that out of her, and then here's just more evidence that this was indeed a, s- a an interview that she. It says right here, description: technical assist, covert recording, covert meaning secret, meaning that she doesn't know that she's being recorded. And it's, you got the details here. On November 15th, 2023, approximately 10:45 a.m., TBI Special Agent Derek Miller, Assistant TBI Special Agent in Charge Michael Parson, Brent Booth, equipping a confidential informant with covert audio video recording equipment to monitor a conversation between the informant and Miss Ann Henderson. They used two recording devices. One had stopped and the other one didn't. But there's your proof. Now that's according to the TBI. Now Dennis is claiming that 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 she didn't know, or that she did know. Somehow she did know. Now that's interesting because if you listen to that recording, he doesn't. I didn't hear anywhere in there where he's saying, "Oh, by the way, Ann, just let you know, I'm recording this conversation." So I don't know why he's making that claim. But like I said, I asked him that question in response to his question or his comment, and well, if he gets back to me, I'll certainly bring it to you. But which brings me to my final point, and that uh, that there was another comment, and they had asked me for clarification. Now, I had done a video bringing up the documents, uh, Pauline's divorce documents from Roman Vance, where in those documents she has a signed and sworn statement where she brings up all the all the violence that she suffered from her first husband. He was very abusive, cruel, beat her repeatedly, kicked her, threw up against furniture, all of that. And you know, and so and the reason I brought that up is because in the press conference on August 29th, 2025, Mark Davidson stood up there and said something to the effect that Pauline, it was discovered during the autopsy or whatever that Pauline had a healing fracture. Healing fracture. So meaning, it was a fresh fracture. And the insinuation that they were making was that that was evidence that Buford was abusive to her. And they offered up some comments from supposedly Jim Moffitt saying that, Buford had beat the hell out of her 3 days before the ambush, and the domestic violence was that was evidence that Pauline, she was going to use that as an excuse to get divorced from Buford. And she had went to supposedly she had went to the district attorney to ask about getting a divorce, which again, I don't know why you're going to a district attorney for a divorce, but that's what the TBI was claiming. And so, and the point that I brought up was, well, there's no evidence to suggest that because Dr. Peeler, in his medical examination after the ambush of Pauline, he did not find any other injuries. And I showed the report. I pulled that up because that's what I do. I don't just speculate. I don't use hearsay. I use the actual documents, you know, official government documents. And so there's that. There's no arrest records for Buford for domestic violence or anything like that. No medical records. But we do have evidence from her first marriage where she had been, by her own words. That's her own words. That's not speculation. She's claiming that. So, well, this person had left a comment and asked me, well, didn't you know, didn't the district attorney stand up there and say that she had a healing nasal fracture? Where are you getting that it was well healed? Because that's what I said. It was well healed. And so, this case, the TBI file, it's just like they said, it is voluminous. I mean, there's a lot of pages, there's a lot of things in there, there's a lot of hearsay. There's the original case file, there's the stuff that they're doing that they did for this investigation. And so it's hard to keep it all straight up here, and so when I do a video, I'll show the documents and all of that, and then I move on to the next and the next and the next. And so when somebody goes back and comments on the older video, it kind of, I'm like, oh, I have to think back, and sometimes they have me second guessing myself. So I went back and looked into the case file and to see where exactly that, or well, first of all, was it well healed or was it healing? And then if it was well healed, where did they get the healing? And so I guess I would start with let me see here. Let me see if I can share the screen. Uh, oh, okay. Well, we'll start with. Let me see if I can bring this up. Sorry about the delay here, folks. I think this is going to be the one I'm looking for. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to take myself off the screen and make this bigger. Okay. What we're looking at here, let me make it bigger for you. Okay. This is from the TBI report, IR 259. Now, this is the summation of investigation, and it was written by Michael Parson, the lead investigator. And so this is basically he's taken all the stuff that they've uncovered during the course of the previous investigation and the reopening of the case, and he kind of puts it all into a big summary. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to the part where it's I think it's like 29 pages, but I'm going to scroll down to the part where we can see the uh, part about the nasal fracture. And you can see there's a lot in this summary because they're basically tying everything together. And so let's go all the way down, all through the witnesses. Keep it going, keep it going. Da, da, da. We should be getting to it pretty soon. Let's see. Like I said, it's a pretty lengthy. There's the part about the rifle. Here's the medical evidence, bloodstain pattern analysis, ballistics, exhumation, autopsy. Okay. This is the autopsy that was performed by Dr. Danielle Harrell and Diana Messer. And so I highlighted the part about the fracture. Now, this is Michael Parson writing this. This is not the doctor. This is not either of the doctors writing it. This is Michael Parson, excuse me, writing it. It says, furthermore, Dr. Messer observed an ante-mortem prior to death, healing nasal fracture on the right side of Pauline's nose. Now, he calls out Dr. Messer. Now, Dr. Messer is a forensic anthropologist. Okay, her specialty, I guess, is bones, and so he calls that out. Now, keep that in mind. Keep that, put that in the back of your head there, Dr. Messer. So, observed an ante-mortem prior to death, healing nasal fracture on the right side of Pauline's nose. This information is extremely significant because Jim Moffitt stated that Buford had beaten up Pauline shortly before her death, and Annie Sue Pipes observed Pauline with bruises and black eyes. And then he talks about domestic violence, assault cases, and a common red flag look out for is blows to the nose. And then it talks about nasal bones can be fractured by various traumas. And so that's interesting. Now, this is the lead investigator. Dr. Messer observed an ante-mortem prior to death, healing nasal fracture. Okay, now let's go. Uh, we'll go take a look at. So we're going to scroll down now, and I'm going to take you to the actual autopsy report and where you can see where they documented all this. So just bear with me while I scroll down. Apologize for the delay here. But I mean, I also like for you guys to see where I'm getting this. I'm just not fabricating it. Okay, here we go. So this is also the TBI report, IR 264, medical report, autopsy report, Pauline Mullins Pusser. Okay, so they did the autopsy. Now this is the report. I'm going to zoom it back in a little bit here. Okay. So Michael Parson presented an order for exhumation, an order for autopsy. Okay. Date of death was 8/12/1967. All right. The pathologist. Now that's the person in charge of overall in charge of the autopsy. And that would have been Danielle Harrell. And they see her signature. And the autopsy was performed uh, February 9th, 2024, 8:30 a.m. And it was a full autopsy. Okay, we're going to scroll down. Again, the pathologist was Danielle Harrell, and it was authorized by Michael Revell and Mark Davidson. So Michael Revell would be the medical examiner for McNairy County, and of course Mark Davidson was the district attorney general. And the pathological diagnosis, forensic examination report, and go down here to section 2. It says remote nasal bone fracture. Now this is coming from the doctor. What's her name again? Dr. Harrell, Danielle Harrell. That's the pathologist. Now this is her notes. Remote nasal bone fracture. Now you might ask yourself, you might be sitting there asking, well, what is a what is a remote nasal bone fracture? Well, full disclosure, I'm not a doctor, not a pathologist, anything like that, but I did dig into that because I wanted to know, well, what is a remote nasal bone fracture? And you guys can let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, but during the course of my investigation into that, I came up with that it's either going to be classified an acute nasal fracture or a remote nasal fracture. Acute meaning new. If it was healing, if it was new, they would have put acute nasal bone fracture. Remote basically means it's an old fracture. Okay, so let's scroll on down. Section 2, remote head injury. The right aspect of the nasal bone has a remote fracture. And then she directs us to take a look at the separate forensic anthropology report. But again, she classifies it as a remote, meaning it's an old nasal bone fracture. Okay, so now we're going to scroll down some more. And you can see this was electronically signed by Danielle Harrell, Assistant Medical Examiner, on September 25th, 2024 at 3:19 p.m. All right. Now this is the report of anthropological examination. And right here you got the pathologist, Danielle Harrell, but this is going to be where Dr. Messer comes in. And remember, Michael Parson referenced Dr. Messer. Dr. Messer is the forensic anthropologist. Summary of findings, section 3, antemortem trauma, meaning prior to death. A, well healed antemortem nasal fracture. Well healed. That's where the well healed comes from. Okay. And then and this was signed Diana L. Messer, doctor, forensic anthropologist. Now remember, Michael Parsons said that Dr. Messer said it was a healing nasal fracture. Now, why did Michael Parson write that it was a healing nasal fracture? Where did he get that from? He references Dr. Messer, but I just showed you that Dr. Messer did not say it was a healing nasal fracture. It was a well healed nasal fracture. So why? Where did that come from? Where did that come from? So I just, and you can scroll down. You can scroll down through here, and there's actually a section that deals with this. Let's see I had it highlighted. Oh, here we go. Antemortem trauma. Okay. There was a well healed antemortem fracture present to the right superolateral margin of the nasal aperture. Now, I don't know what any of that means. Again, I'm not a doctor. But again, it's well healed. And then if you scroll down to the summary and interpretation, again, there was a well healed antemortem fracture to the right side of the nasal aperture, likely representing months to years since injury. Months to years. Well, I mean, that pretty much says that they don't know when it happened, but it was months, if not years. Don't know how many years, but they said months to years. But it's certainly one thing we do know is that it wasn't healing, it was already healed. So, why, you have to ask yourself, why did Michael Parsons say it was a healing fracture? Where did he get it? Did he just straight up lie about it? Did he falsify? Is he guilty of falsifying an official report, which I do believe. I mean, now you legal experts out there in the comments, let me know. Can a law is a law enforcement official, is he authorized to falsify an official report like this? Is it a crime? I don't know. You guys let me know. Hopefully, we've got some legal eagles in the out there watching these videos. Let me know in the comments about that. And and ask yourself this also: if the lead investigator is willing to lie in the official report, what else must be going on? What else was lied about? So these are all good questions. I don't know that we may never get answers, but that's where that, and then the rest of this is just where they I guess they figured out that she had some caffeine in her stomach. You got the forensic toxicologist there, and I guess they were looking at the other testing that they did. But yeah, that was that. Now you might ask yourself, because you remember the other doctor involved in this report was Dr. Ravel, the medical examiner. He's the one that got with together with the Attorney General Mark Davidson. They requested the autopsy. Well, let's jump over here. See if I can. Okay, this is the document. Go up here, zoom in on this, and this is IR 65 in the TBI report, and it's a medical. Oh, let's see here. This is a medical medical review by Dr. Michael Revelle, uh, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation medical consultant, and this was done July 31st, 2023. Now, keep in mind, the autopsy wasn't done until I believe February of 2024. But he's going to go ahead and weigh in on all this for us. Well, let's see if he says anything about a nasal fracture. Okay, July 31st, 2023. To whom it may concern, June of 2023, I was asked to review evidence regarding the homicide of Pauline Pusser. In my capacity as a TBI medical consultant, I have reviewed the photographs taken post-mortem of the body of Pauline Pusser. So he's just looking at photographs, and then he also looked at the medical examiner's report by Dr. Peeler, and then he looked at the photographs of the vehicle at the ambush, and then he also, I guess, analyzed Buford Pusser's statement. But again, if you read this whole thing, and then, of course, this is where he speculates that she was more than likely not shot, or more than likely. Ah, sorry about that, folks. Let me clear that up. It says right here, I base my opinion on a reasonable degree of medical certainty that Mrs. Pauline Pusser was more likely than not shot outside the vehicle and placed inside the vehicle. Uh, and then he's talking about the Dr. Peeler's notes and basically saying that he got it wrong. But nowhere in here there anything about a nasal fracture. And it says TBI medical. Now again, I don't know if there's some legal experts out there that know about it, but he's the medical examiner for McNairy County. Actually, I guess he's the medical examiner for Madison, Haywood, Hardeman, Chester, McNairy counties. I don't know. Is that too many counties for a medical examiner? But if you're the medical examiner, should you also be a TBI medical consultant? Does that offer up any kind of conflicts of interest? I don't know. If you guys know, let me know in the comments. I'm not an attorney, so I wouldn't know. But again, we looked here at Dr. Ravel's notes, and he doesn't mention the nasal fracture. Dr. Messer said it was a well-healed nasal fracture, and and so and of course Dr. Harrell, the pathologist, she didn't say it was a. She said it was an old fracture. So where exactly did this idea that it was a healing nasal fracture come from? These are good questions, and hey, if you guys can find it maybe because again, it's a big report, and I'll admit I lose track of it from time to time. It's hard to really keep all these facts straight, but I'm a big believer in being truthful and looking at sticking to the evidence. What does the evidence tell us? And I feel like if the TBI is going to write up a report on this, and they're gonna get something simple like that wrong. Because you might say, well, maybe it was an honest mistake. Maybe he was tired. It was reaching the end of the investigation. Maybe he thought it said healing. Honest mistake. Well, I mean that's pretty significant, because they're using that healing fracture as part of a motive for Buford to have unalived Pauline. So, and again, if there's a mistake, a simple mistake like that, and to me, the lead in because it's not just he himself wrote it, and it was also reviewed by another agent. So he wrote it. Matter of fact, let's see. Let me scroll back up here. Uh, oh, hold on. Let me scroll back up to the summation of investigation. All right, so uh, yeah, let me pull that back up. So you guys can see. Hold on here. Bear with me. Sometimes let's see. That's not the right one. Okay, yeah, yeah. Here we go. So I'll take myself off the screen again, so you guys can see for yourself. But right up here, the author was Michael W. Parson, and it was approved by Mark Lewis, and the supervisor of cold case investigations here is James Elkins. So that's three sets of eyes that looked at this. Because if you're a professional law enforcement body like the TBI, you're going to have people looking over things. You're going to have people checking your work. So even though Michael Parson might have wrote this up, and maybe he made that mistake, somebody else should be looking over this, and they should have caught it. You know, and then furthermore, uh, Mark Davidson, the Attorney General, if you're the Attorney General and you're going to stand up there at the podium and make proclamations, surely either he or some of his staff, some of his underlings, if you will, they would have looked into it too. Because you don't. That's not a good look either. If you're the attorney general for that district, uh, to get up there and make false statements. So again, this is all. I'm just bringing up some things that's out there. This is I know some people don't like my videos, and they think that I'm nitpicking. Like, well, why are you harping on this and blah 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 blah. Well, it's important. Words matter, facts matter, and if you're going to hold yourself out to be an investigative body like the TBI does, and remember, the TBI, they have it set up to where all their records are sealed. Okay, so there's very little oversight with the TBI. So keep that in mind. This is an organization that's putting people in prison, and there's very little oversight. So we're just lucky. We're just really lucky that they made this available. I don't know. They might be regretting that right about now, but we can see what kind of work product they're putting out. And ask yourself this: I mean, do you really think that this is the best work that can be done? But I'm not gonna drag this out too much longer, folks. I just wanted to uh, come on. I hadn't put a video out in a while and touch base with you guys, um, and just respond to some of these comments with a video. Maybe I can clear some things up. But I hope I've given you some food for thought here, and let's start taking a closer look. Let's get some answers. This whole well-healed healing nasal fracture situation. Did they lie? Did they just outright lie like that? Kind of looks like it. It looks. I mean, if you're asking me for my spot reaction, I think they lied. That's my opinion, of course. That's my opinion. But you know, you put two and two together, and when you've got the report, you've got the autopsy report from the experts that says it's a well healed fracture, and then you choose to write healing, and then you use that as a predicate to establish some sort of motive. That's not a good look. That is not a good look. I think they lied. Now, is it are they going to be held accountable for this? Probably not. Probably not. And I don't know. Who knows? They may dig up some expert or something, and that they didn't put in their report, and say, well, this we consulted with this person. And I don't know. I'm sure there'll be some covering of bases going on, but yeah, folks. That's all I've got for today's video. I hope everybody's doing well. Hope your health is good. Hope 2026 is it's going to be a great year for everybody. And with that, I will get out of here, and I will see you guys on the next video. So take care, everybody.